So I will call the March 15th, 2023 meeting of the Tourism Commission to order. And we'll start with roll call. Commissioner Holford.
Present.
Commissioner Kuderski.
Here.
Commissioner Marevka is excused. Schaefer Kuderski.
Here.
Commissioner Marevka is excused. Schaefer excused. Commissioner Wiley is here. Commissioner Wesner.
Here.
6:01, I will open the citizen comment period. Even though she's here, she's not here as a citizen, so I go 1.5. I will close the comment. The draft minutes from our January 23rd meeting are attached, and
Correction to make. Engage Franklin organization in that a board has been assembled with 2 nominees from the City Council and Hampton Hotel to be identified. There's one from the Hampton Hotel and one from Stay Inn.
From the Sleep Inn Mainstay Development. From her.
Sleep in rather than city. Because the city council, I think, probably was identified. Maybe not.
Oh, and you added.
Yes, we've added the requested additional members that are.
After the 23rd meeting.
But Michelle is not acting as a council person on there, correct?
No, she is. She's our council on the board of directors.
She is, okay.
do you want to change? What you want to add? Do you want to change? What you want to add?
Yeah, the way it reads to me was 2 nominees from the City Council and Hampton Hotel. Makes it sound like there's 2 from the Hampton Hotel, and one from Hampton and one from the other hotel.
And which one? What's the other?
Hampton and one from the other hotel.
And which one? What's the other one, Laura? Oh, Mainstay. Okay.
It's both brands, so Sleep In and one.
So I just scratch 2, and I'll just say with nominees from the city council, Sleep in. Nominees from the city council, Sleep in Hampton Hotel to be identified.
It works.
Okay. Any other changes? Corrections? Now can I have a motion to second? Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Minutes are approved as revised. We'll go to item 4 at 6:05. Engage Franklin promotional update.
So I can give you the update from the last meeting and what we've achieved up to date. All of you should have been invited to our strategic planning session, and we have our facilitator approved as Lynn Peters, which is great. If you can't make it, I encourage you guys to submit your comments, which is great. If you can't make it, I encourage you guys to submit your comments via survey or sit with me or whomever you're comfortable with on our board of directors to make your opinions known before that date, because we're going to be ironing out a lot of our goals for the future, namely year 1 goals, but then we're going to focus on beyond a little bit as well. And your input is on beyond a little bit as well. And your input is obviously 100% priority. So in that session, we also intend to, I just spoke with our facilitator today, for those present, you'll want to communicate one way or another how the commission wants to be involved moving forward, how hands-on, how hands-off we intend to tackle with your input. The question was asked, I believe, at the last meeting, well, what position does this leave the commission in if Engage Franklin is the one who's contracting, we're contracting with services? Absolutely valid question. And I answered it with a question like, how involved do you want to be, right? It really is up to you guys to play. So this is taking place on this upcoming Monday and Tuesday. Monday is the session that you're all invited to. Tuesday is board only. We're taking all the public input, and any of the stakeholders in the community are welcome to any part of that first day session to just let their voice be heard, make sure it's on the record, and then what will directors going to strategize how we're going to incorporate that into something that's actionable. And then we'll return to you guys with a report on it. So that's going to be, I think, a huge step in the right direction for documenting our partnership and making sure that we are considering all factors, and obviously is voiced in the past, parts of the community, representing all of the community, making sure that all of the promotional voices are being heard. So that's taken place, and I feel like that's going to give us a lot. I'm meeting tomorrow, actually, with Andrew Vickers and Doug Seymour and Melissa Rasmussen from Oak Creek. It's representation from their city administration and from their tourism commission. And we've been discussing the Sports CTA Symposium, where there's a lot of overflow from our sporting events that get placed in Oak Creek, right? So we're having this discussion to try to manage that overflow and to try to have them actually invest in the marketing, and this discussion to try to manage that overflow and to try to have them actually invest in the marketing of sports events as well, because they benefit from them. So they're on board with some version of cooperation on that and some version of investment on that, and we'll hash that out tomorrow. But that's the reason why I feel like it's the next thing to do after we do the strategic plan, because it's the easiest way for us to produce results and show what we can do. So the Sports ETA Symposium is through the group called Sports ETA, and it's going to be in Kansas City. In Kansas City, what we'll have 3 days there and go on about 40 to 50 mini dates with rights holders for sports events. Now they're not just traditional sports like basketball, whatever. It's events that people gather to perform in. So it could be, there's cup stacking, there's bags tournaments, there's all kinds of random events that people, competition sports. So we're there to basically say we have the Milwaukee County Sports Complex, we have the Mosh Sports Complex, we have meeting services over at the Polish Center, these are our assets that we have to offer to you as rights holders, and here's why you should come and book your event with us. Have your visitors come and spend money in our community. Then, of course, there will be an effort once we get those events and once they're in our community, there will be a concerted effort to make sure they understand what there is to do. If they're at the Milwaukee County Sports Complex, we want them to get out to our other restaurants and our conservancy and all the good stuff, right? So there will be the two pieces with that. Number one, the acquisition of the event, which is the point of so there will be the two pieces with that. Number one, the acquisition of the event, which is the point of the Sports ETA Symposium. And number two, it'll be the event management side of it, how we want people to perceive us as a destination. So that's why it's up for.
When is that symposium?
May.
So coming
Through, I think it's the 5th through the 13th. I can Google it. Well, actually, I don't have Wi-Fi right now. You guys need specific dates, I'll get it shortly. And so the reason this is of some urgency is because there's cutoffs for, well, first of all, you should be a member of the organization first. Membership annual fee as well, because they're given access to different things and preferred placement with these little mini dates and so on, because they're members of the organization. And with that membership, you also get their bid list. So there's a bidding list that's ongoing and constantly being added to of anywhere from events that are looking for locations, and you just have access to their RFPs, and obviously the ability to submit based on your destination. So that's what you get in the membership. And then there's the registration for the event itself, and that's also shown in my menu of services as part of the investment. That's obviously important to gain access to the event. Of course, there's travel involved. Hotel, I have no preference whether I drive or fly. I'll do whatever's cheaper. Those types of things are all kind of packaged into this request, because as I'm learning, like for example, with the strategic action planning session, I'm going to be paying out of pocket for the refreshments, paying out of pocket for the big Post-it notes and the, what I mean, the things that go with the event. So I don't want to get in the habit of under asking and then having to, personally cover those types of costs. And in any instance, I would appreciate the thought to possibly even over approve with the money, because I just don't want to be investing too much of my own personal money. I'm happy to do it in this launching stage, but I don't want to make it an ongoing practice. And then you'll notice in the services portion of things, that also includes a FAM tour. Anybody is familiar with, I know you are, yeah. But design tours are familiarity tours. So we'll go and we'll do these mini dates and we'll take maybe the top 10, best fitting clientele and prospective rights holder hosts for our community. And then we invite them to come and view it, right? And get them familiar with our community, our version of hospitality, what guests can expect for a hotel experience, for dining experiences, etc. And that's usually really what gets them to sign on the dotted line for multiple years. I mean, in Franklin, it certainly will. The community will speak for itself. And as I've told a lot of folks, all we got to do is get people to see it, and then it's the easy. So we have it on paper, the diagrams and the lively photos and all that stuff. So that'll sell enough to get them there. Once they arrive in the community, they'll be like, it's all new, it's state of the art, it's amazing, and our hospitality. So that's the next ask on the menu list, is that package of the Sports ETA Symposium and Fan Tour. We'll be investing up to 1/2 of it. So that meeting takes place tomorrow at noon, so it's kind of ill-timed. I ran out of time to get them scheduled, but I can update John immediately following the meeting if we make any decisions on that event. Let me update John immediately following the meeting if we make any decisions on that event. Let me pull up the other services. Really, what I would like everybody to consider also, I 100% respect the opportunity to kind of earn the trust of people. What I would like everybody to consider also, I 100% respect the opportunity to kind of earn the trust of the commission as its entity, okay? Because I want to be able to perform really well. I want to be able to show you that I can turn these dollars into more dollars. I want to show you that we're going to the Rock campus and really show the community off to all of these prospective visitors and rights holders. I will be doing all those things and I'll be diligent about it. But I'm also here to say that it is going to be extremely difficult and extremely lengthy process if each time in each project, things like that, if there could ever be a consideration, and I understand that I need to earn this right, but if there could be a consideration, if after I show you exactly what I can do with what you've given me, that we may consider a regular funding schedule where I have the ability to have a larger umbrella of tasks beneath it. Because, for example, like simple stuff like me paying the Hampton for the refreshment, those types of things. I can't function as a normal organization, as a normal nonprofit who serves the whole community, not just the Rock, if I don't have a regular, predictable revenue stream. And in other communities where the tourism entity exists, that revenue stream is removed. So, respectfully, I will earn, your trust in those funds. I'm confident and excited to do. In those funds, I'm confident and excited to do that. But I would just like to say that in advance because I don't want it to be a surprise when I ask for more. Really, ask for a longer-term commitment, ask for a more regular commitment as the tourism entity, so that I can actually start to crank things out and operate on knowing what I can expect for revenue and knowing what I can produce. Because it'll be difficult for me to execute contracts, for example. Any of those things that a legitimate organization can do, I can't do if I have to come for approval for smaller projects as we go along. So
one of the things we talked about, once we get readouts and see how things are progressing, that it'll be easier for us to move forward.
And there's been discussion about making some payments on some of these projects on total of that category. We've got one item right now, $2,200 bill that needs to be approved so that the facilitator for the strategic planning conduct that will be approved. And I know we talked about that being a pretty easy decision to make. It would just help get that paid to have that one particular project done, as far as I can see, and Laura's talked about the other one, and then we can approve bills as they come in for those who I can approve bills as they come in for those two items.
Yeah, so I think that we understand what you're saying, and our intent is not to make it difficult.
Yeah, no, I understand that too. I just, I appreciate that, and I just didn't know session, obviously, as I'm not privy to that information, nor should I be. I just wanted to hope that we were all thinking the same thing.
Yeah, part of it is being cognizant of cash flow as well, just because of the way the money comes in, and expend a large portion of it just for the commit to what we're available to.
And some good news on that front. From all of the data collection and fact finding that I have done so far on room tax, once the mainstay and sleep-in are active and booking rooms and producing room tax and paying into the city, I feel as though, but it's worth saying again, once we get to about $506,000 in total room tax collections, that's the tipping point to go to 70/30, where the city doesn't pay itself its stock amount first and then backfill for the commission, right? If it's 70/30, it's normal procedure in either business or anything like that, but I'm just explaining what I've experienced in other communities. It's kind of a best practice once you're at that 70/30 split, that each quarterly payment is 70/30. So you guys as a commission will be more empowered also, you know, knowing what could be coming any given quarter and start to forecast. For such just a really exciting thing with this.
What's the target date for those two to be online?
October 1st. That's kind of their under promise over deliver kind of date, right? They're hoping to open a little bit earlier and catch some of the last tournaments at Rock League Baseball because they can be full. We're sending people to their under promise over deliver kind of date, right? They're hoping to open a little bit earlier and catch some of the last tournaments at Rock League Baseball because they can be full. We're sending people to Brookfield. We're all over. And so I introduced Roy, who will be on the board, to Joey Olivo. I introduced Roy, who will be on the board, to Joey Olivo, who does those bookings, the state of play bookings. And so they're in communication now and actively, you know, talking to teams about if this, then we're going to transfer you from Brookfield to Franklin Hotels. And if it's not ready, it's not ready, but they're having those open a little early, they'll be sold out.
Ed, were you coming to the strategic planning session?
Mm-hmm.
Are you, Jeff?
No, I'm going to report it.
Okay. I don't know. Were you?
I will be there.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I appreciate
A handful of, like, I know John Nelson is able to make it. Unfortunately, Mayor Olson isn't able to make it, but hopefully we can gather his thoughts and opinions on any topics ahead of time. I've offered to meet with them so I can present. And then, yeah, once I have, actually, once I have the, I'll also share that with you guys, so you can expect, or know who to expect at the table. I know additional folks who are not on my board who I haven't mentioned, like we have Bill Elliott from the Wisconsin Hotel and Lodging Association who's going to be there. He's a Franklin resident, and he's the president and CEO of WHLA, which I thought, wow, what a cool resource to have, like, president and CEO of WHLA, which I thought, wow, what a cool resource to have, like, as a Franklin resident, right? So he cares on two levels. And yeah, I'm trying to think of anybody else that's not affiliated with the council, with the commission, or with my board. I believe there was one more, but again, or with my board. I believe there was one more, but again, I'll get you the full list as soon as I have it. I know it's in short order here since he's prepared.
How many people total do you expect on Monday?
I'm guessing about 6. It'll be a strong room. About 6. It'll be a strong room.
Yes.
And I've warned my facilitator. I was like, look, this is going to be a room that, you know, this conversation we've been waiting to have it for a long time, right? There are people who have had more experience on the topic, like you guys, right? Obviously, hands-on experience. There are people who have no experience with it. There are people who are eager to learn. There are people who are not eager to learn. It's, you know, it's going to be a very active.
Any questions for Laura?
Yeah. visitor's guide, John was kind enough to get me the business list that he has access to the database, so that's great. So what I would do, my process on the visitor guide will be a personal process. I will be the one to go out face-to-face to different businesses within Franklin and ask to have them represented by way of paid advertising. To different businesses within Franklin and ask to have them represented by way of paid advertisement, right? So that we can work to subsidize the project. We probably won't pay for the whole thing with advertising revenue because the first year is always a little tricky. First couple years of any kind of collateral piece is always a little tricky. You want to make it appealing to buy in, and then show them the value. It's kind of what I'm doing here too. And then so there will be some actual investment in that. I assume in the design, printing, and distribution of that. I can't say what that is right now because I haven't gotten exact quotes on that project yet, although I did review the list and I was excited to get using it, is because I don't feel confident right now executing contracts with any printing or designing, company. I feel like if I don't know for sure if I will have the funding to pay them, I shouldn't make them start doing work, right? Or have them anticipating. A project I've done on a very regular basis in their communities, it's always produced. I mean, it's tourism 101, right? It's that one go-to piece that can be either in hand or digital that people know to expect and really shows your community the best look. I don't know if I answered your question.
I think so. I noticed this is all 2000.
Did an earlier start.
Well, I was actually thinking you were doing this for 24.
Yes, well, I will be now. I mean, I will be doing the solicitation, design, production of it all throughout 2023. So the project portion of it will take place, but then it'll be beginning to be distributed Jan 1.
Okay.
Assuming we have enough time built in the ability to.
Any other companies that'll come in and do all of that for you?
Yeah, so there are a handful of them that are recommended by the Wisconsin Department of Tourism because they are just, they're destination marketing driven. So I've interviewed with a couple of them just that I have relationships with in the past. But what we could do if it would make the group more confident or my board group more confident or my board more confident, whatever, to have them present, what their options are and things like that. I know a big part of it is what's your destination brand that decides like kind of the theme of everything, right? And I feel like we as community members and invested, as people in the community have a hard time branding ourselves as like a destination. We have like our internal eyes on, So in my personal opinion, whatever company can present the best brand package, this is who you are to a visitor. This is you. I mean, we won't obviously back ourselves into a corner with any one niche. That's not going to be a smart way to do things. But anybody who can present the best all-encompassing brand representation in their design like proposal, I think would be a really.
I just thought from the standpoint, if it gets somebody can come in and have a sales team and do the design and all of that stuff, and you oversee it, but it leaves you free to do the other things you do. This was a question.
No, I misunderstood it. So
I'm sure, Barb, you
so thanks for clarifying. Yeah.
worked with them.
For the first couple of years and doing this, at least to develop the relationship with businesses, because I feel like that's a part of my job anyway. I feel like this is a good way to initiate conversations with businesses I haven't spoken with before and really get to know their executive team, but also some of the folks in the middle levels of management throughout the organizations. So although I know that it would be a time saver, I personally also know, because as a previous business owner, I know that like when I'm being approached by a sales staff from say out of state or something, via phone call or whatever, I'm less likely to respond than if there is somebody who's active in the community standing or whatever. I'm less likely to respond than if there is somebody who's active in the community standing face to face. And I feel like that's the personal touch we're going to need to get the initial buy-in for the publication. And then once we're rolling and we have like, hey man, you like this, it's a really good tool, we've used it, you've seen benefit from it, etc., then that would be a good opportunity to have something stand, in my opinion.
Follow up on Ed's comment. I know that there's an organization in Greendale that handles their, I would say, pretty close to a visitor guide for them, but it's if it's monthly or every 2 months or whatever, their last name.
Forget that.
Exactly. But the difference, how she handles it, if I recall, and I believe she did make a presentation maybe to this group once
think
before.
you're right. Yeah.
Remember? She gets commitments from at least like 3 major PC, the city, and one other organization. And so they also have a strong presence then in the magazine. And then there are other articles that come in about the community, but she does everything. So it takes a great deal off of the shoulders of you or someone else, or the communications person at the city. That might be also, we want to revisit that. I know we didn't last time. Whenever that
I think
was.
we held off because we weren't sure what our direction was.
Or the communications person at the city. That might be also, we want to revisit that. I know we didn't last time. Whenever that
I think
was.
we held off because we weren't sure what our direction was.
Right.
So,
But I think we can kind of just keep that in mind. I ran into her a few months ago in Greendale, and she just said, anytime you're ready, she'd be more than happy to do this. So anyway, but that is another option I think we could look at. Wanted to.
In the meantime, if you'd be kind enough to facilitate an introduction,
Yeah.
that would be great. I'd just like to meet her and what it is that makes her click around and how she.
And of course, it's the village of Greendale, so all of the stores and restaurants and something that are within the village are very supportive. Look at her at the publication; it's very well represented by those.
At least sit and have a coffee.
Sure.
And sorry for the redundant question, but what's your timeline to start that?
Timeline would be ASAP. As soon as I know for a fact I could engage in contract with the design company. As soon as I have confidence in revenue, so that I could sign a contract and then engage with them, knowing that a lot of it will be backfilled with ad sales, but I want to make sure. So I'd start on it tomorrow. I already have my insertion order all designed and ready to go. What I would have to do is populate some mailing labels and rock and roll and set my follow-up schedule.
Thanks.
one other thing about Franklin is not on the agenda. Update on. I know that's.
Yeah.
That'll probably be critical to get that taken care of soon too, and that may help us in funding schedule.
And we can talk about these sorts of things, obviously, at these meetings. At the strategic action planning session, I'm sure it'll come up in some way, shape, or form too. So it'll be a safe space for us to just air out ideas. Don't get to know each other's.
Engage Franklin. Close item 4 at 30. Do we have a need to go into closed session?
Anything in particular, unless you get folks that are ready to make some,
Thanks.
Laura, make a decision on moving in or moving in the category.
Well, we had talked about in the last meeting setting up to 75,000 on top of the 150. And we haven't done anything as far as moving beyond that. The only request we got is the 2,200 that we can talk about.
That's why I was thinking that, if a specific item, like the 2,200 is from the strategic action planning, if strategic action planning is approved and it's up to $4,000,
right,
then Sean can sign the invoice. I mean, he can sign it now, and we know that it counts against that. Then he can sign it, we know that it counts against that. then he can sign it and everything is positive and sure, he has that approval. So that's why I'm thinking you could consider which of these out of to approve, obviously approve all, but if it in
Right.
is something that you wanna, make sure Sean can sign vouchers from, then you might wanna consider it.
Do we want to do that then, or do we want to wait for Sean to be back? Or do we need to wait, he did sign that?
Yeah, because I mean, we can, approve expenditures, kind of on a, single item basis. We can continue to do that.
Kind of the frame of mind to wait until after their strategic planning. Get a schedule from her about when she's going to read out, so we can gauge the progress against.
I'd be comfortable with that.
Okay.
I do have a question, kind of switching. Notice we don't have an update from Carl Collective. Has that been, I mean, we approved that, correct?
Did approve that.
And has that been initiated with?
Yes, he's working on it, and he's doing surveys with strategic tourism business leaders. And so, And so I've seen the emails where he's called, he reached out to them like Lance to do surveys, do interviews with them about tourism. They see. So he started with.
Does he have an end time that he's shooting for?
No, you're one from him, but I can
My, my wish would be, in a perfect world, that we had his data and findings that we could apply towards her visitor guide, rather than having somebody else looking at and then everything when we're already engaged in doing that. So I'd rather she held off, but I didn't want to say anything today because I didn't know the status of it. Because he was going to work towards, identifying markets.
It does sound as if we're doing two different silos of things.
And I'm trying not to do.
They need to talk to each other. Also, I just want to make a comment. I just flipped over that page on the projects and budgets. There's another 4 items of asking for.
Yeah, she was just interested in talking to you about the strategic action plan and the sports ETA.
Because that's imminent.
Because those things are, up now on
Right.
schedule, and so that would be something that's timely to consider.
Okay, understand.
So, what is it you wanted to wait for, Mark, before we consider?
To get it, to find out how the Engage Franklin strategic planning session goes.
Okay, great.
And we can get a readout of that, because several of us will be there. I was just looking to see if I had the timing for Carl Collective to be there. I was just looking to see if I had the timing for Carl Collective.
I don't know if they have a specific.
They may not have,
I think they were saying, by the end of summer. I suspect they'll be done faster.
I would hope
that's
so.
a long
And
time.
Yeah, and I
Right.
think your point is extremely valid. It may help her quite a bit to have that.
And they may have had other items that they were proposing included in that. But I do, wise, the voucher for the 2,200, I had the proposal which listed deliverables. That wasn't an acceptable item, so I got a real official invoice, and you can approve.
Okay. Well then, let's, I don't think we need to schedule that for our next meeting. Have a more thorough discussion. How do we want to do is quarterly is, I agree with what Laura said. It's going to be cumbersome for her to come in every time that she's moving. It's going to be cumbersome for us.
Again, in approving, when we're ready to approving specific items on the menu at this point, until we're ready to do that quarterly fixed revenue. Say if you approve an item on the menu, that's revenue. Say if you approve an item on the menu, then it's ready for, issuing a check for the whole item. Or we can do it as vouchers. For the whole item, because of the way we do billing at the city, because of the way we do billing at the city, it's a month-long process. Pretty much to get a check. And so that we know that we've got an item approved, then we're able to do the dollars forward.
Okay.
Able to do the dollars forward.
Okay.
Section by section. That's just something to think about. Ready to approve something. The strategic plans.
Okay.
That's what I wondered if because she was talking about the symposium being in May.
Right.
I mean, she has the membership and the registration for that. And, if we're talking about during March, so if we're going to wait till April to approve that, it'd be, they kind of give enough time to do all that. I don't know what another alternative is, yes, still what is the connection between Rock Venture and Franklin? Are they putting money towards it? Or you talk about Oak Creek putting money towards it. But
Right, so
the other question is, would it be have Carl Collective come to that supposed one day and let him to that supposed one day and let him part of that too as well? Because that might be something that he would learn more of what's going on, and we don't have this double people doing the same surveys, and I guess it's supposed to be partnership working together. Well, it would be worth time for him to come to that.
Yeah, I don't even know if she invited him or.
Right, but I mean,
Since
probably
we don't
not,
know
but I'm
who's on
just,
the list.
Yeah, I will check.
but I'm just thinking, would that be worthwhile on his part to come and just observe, or
Or at least to meet some of the
right?
shareholders.
Yeah, sometimes it looks like we're doing double
Yeah.
or triple
Sure.
duty, but I'm just worried that if we're gonna move ahead with that sports CTA, are we gonna have time for her to get the membership and the registration?
Well, so we could.
Is it, and then the thing, are we gonna be able to get one? Well, I don't know much, I looked at it a little bit, but it's like, seems like it was, they're supposed to have like you're supposed to be able to participate in a 1 minute spiel to shoot off to all these people why come to Franklin to hand out, and if you don't have anything to hand out, I don't, are we too far, just pushing it too far right this moment?
Right.
I'm pretty, if you go to this thing and you say, okay, I'm just meeting people and say, hey, come to Franklin, okay, great, but you have an elevator speech to say, this is why I'm coming to Franklin, does it?
Some that they can take with them and remember.
Yeah, and it just seems like are we doing, I don't know, is there another, or are we pushing this timeline further out? There one in fall that happened.
I've attended those things in the past where you literally spend 2 minutes and they talk to you for 2 minutes and you move on to the next ones. And they talk to you for 2 minutes and you move on to the next ones. And of course, they all give you stuff. And then you get back to your hotel room and guess where it all goes? Leave it there, maybe keep one or two that might be of interest.
Right.
So,
But I mean, if you don't have nothing,
yeah.
I mean, it sounds like we have nothing, because she hasn't done anything with the.
Yeah. Well,
It sounds like we have nothing, because she hasn't done anything with the brochure or anything. It all takes money.
Yeah.
Right.
Create a brochure, city for. I mean, I don't. And I said it's hard because even if you go on website, or with Facebook, there's last Facebook post. Or with Facebook, there's last Facebook post was engaged Franklin was December 20th. Of 2020.
2020.
Of 2020.
Yeah, nothing has been updated, nothing. I'm like, well, that's a simple, free thing to do. And then I'm not sure what the connection between. And And then I'm not sure what the connection between Celebrate Franklin versus Engage Franklin.
Yeah,
Because
see, we need to fix that.
you got Engage Franklin, if you look on the Facebook page, it references Celebrate Franklin. It's never Engage Franklin, well, and then you go to Celebration of Franklin, it updated, right?
Laura's predecessor, who was the, person that was jointly hired,
Right.
was the person who was maintaining that website. And so is our understanding that that's what Laura's gonna do too, is maintain and populate that website,
Right.
I don't know that, this is just my personal, I'll throw it out there, I don't know that we need that one.
I think the Celebrate Franklin was okay.
Okay.
And that was we kind of envisioned that as a placeholder. That was before the talk about it. We envisioned that as a placeholder. That was before the talk about it. So then we did switch courses midstream. And I think Callie was.
Well, yeah, Callie oversaw the development, and it was done with Theo. It was
Right.
done- And like I say, Laura's predecessor was doing the populating and the update.
Which there was very little of. Part of what led to her leaving.
So, and how that works, and I did some research on it today, is that person, Laura now, gets information, the data, and sends it to Theo, and they have a webmaster that puts it in
Theo
there.
has to do that.
Right.
Oh,
Right. Now, depending on your internet site coding skills, you may be able to do that. I don't think that's Laura's forte, so it probably would be a convenience for her to do that.
Yeah.
And I don't know what your timeframes are for Engage to have their own website up.
Well, they have one, right?
That's what I'm thinking. It's like, you're going to this conference, attract people and say, come to our website, we don't have one. Come to our Facebook, we don't have it.
Well,
right.
And I'm just kind of,
right.
are we putting the cart in front of the horse? Okay, let's just get the horse started,
So it may be premature.
In front of the horse. Okay, let's just get the horse started,
So it may be premature for us to do that sports PTA.
Right.
And if she wants to do that as part of Engage, she could do that.
I mean, I think I still think it's important to get some type of social media presence.
Absolutely.
It doesn't cost you anything. It's have the site open. Somebody should, which I would assume that put some events out there and make it.
Right.
Because now you start getting, I started the Polish Center one. It was like 1,000 people, with 900 to 1,000 people. I'm up to 7,900 people following it. Just get the interaction going. It's important. So I think that's an important step to go first.
Right.
For soliciting, come to a place and look me up and wait, what are you going to look up?
Right.
The
Well,
only thing you can look up is Rock Venture, or I said I looked at, because I looked at Celebrate Franklin, and it's up there.
she wants to update placeholder that gets her going. Maybe she can make references to that. And
Well, and she can
give them a
she's got-
card or some kind of Chotsky with the website address.
She's got time between now and then to actually get the website fixed, kind of.
Right.
So if she decides to do that as part of Engage, that's within her wherewithal.
And it was supposed to be part of the plan.
Right.
There's a website part of this. I don't know if she's looking at converting that, change it from Celebrate to Engage. Really, I mean, just
Are we
depends on what.
paying Theo then?
I mean, you can link
Well,
it, so it's all linkable.
That would depend on if she wants to have them doing that, or that would depend on if she wants to have them doing that, or I'm assuming the city owns the website. So at that point, we shift away from Theo from agreement for doing the management and the hosting of. Well, they could still host it. and then, well, they could still host it. And then shift it over to whoever, engaged has for the hosting, and then, they could arrange for the updates.
Are we paying Teal anything?
I don't think we're paying them, well, to host it, yes.
Okay.
They're hosting it, and the website.
What is the $10,000 that she's asking for to be paid in April and June of this year for website?
Well,
What is that
I'm
for?
assuming that was to start their own, but if she updates this one, maybe she can use Celebrate and just retrench it. I'm assuming she's just looking at getting started with Celebrate, and the information is current at the very least.
Mhm.
But in the short term, that would be not.
This is, this.
But I don't want to have two of them going.
No, because, okay, so when, and I don't want to speak for her, but when she gets the other website up, then Celebrate comes down on that website or that domain. They keep the domain, and just anybody coming in on that just gets routed to the agent.
And that takes Theo out of the picture.
Yeah, I think Theo can be taken out of the picture, because I think they are getting paid for hosting, and they get paid for any, because I think they are getting paid for hosting, and they get paid for any edits that are made. Well, no edits are being made.
That they
So-
make.
So right now they're getting paid for hosting, and whoever owns it can decide they want to switch to a different.
Okay.
I'm on it right. Still looks.
It had good graphics, if I remember. It was easy to get around and navigate. The material was out of date.
People did a good job putting it together. It's just anybody. Process.
And what I'm hearing,
Well, I think first one, fine.
the 2200.
Yeah, because that's already in process. I don't know what's gonna happen.
Well,
If we don't approve it.
I need,
I guess it's like,
if you guys.
and I think it's
approve-
important.
But that's what my thought is.
And then we
We
can go
get through
further.
what they're doing on Monday and Tuesday.
Yeah.
And then we can come back and we can see what the plan is, talk about, okay, do we want to do this by piece? Want to give you, here's your quarterly allowance.
We can always call a special
You
meeting.
can see what the plan is, talk about, okay, do we want to do this by piece? Want to give you, here's your quarterly allowance.
So we can always call a special meeting if we need
Right,
to.
we can. We just have to get.
What does John L. says?
We just have to get.
What does John L. says?
Just give me a date when y'all aren't in Florida or someplace else that you gotta be, and we'll schedule it.
All right, so we'll table item 6. Actually make that. And at 50, we can go out for. Just this one. But you said it's already been approved. We need a vote.
Not right now. Sean signed off on it, so if you guys approve it, I can just get it to Sean and say, hey, sign it, and he can be more comfortable knowing he's gone through a process, which we're here now, we have the ability to do.
So this is the invoice for the facilitator Monday and Tuesday.
Right, yeah, the part of it,
Can I get a motion?
Oh, I'm sorry. I moved to approve the invoice.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Perfect.
so we're typically on the third Wednesday. And of course, I decide now to start leaving the date off, because Sean usually has a date that he wants to bring up. But
My calendar at home has the entire year's scheduled things on it. So scheduled things on it, so.
Let's-
Our next normally scheduled 19th.
Yes, sir.
Our next normally scheduled 19th.
Yes, sir.
Find out from. Did the Brewers start playing by that time?
Yes, they
Yeah.
do. They should be here.
We heard anything from Lance?
You know, I sent him a message at the meeting tonight, never heard.
I don't know if there's someone else in this organization that would be able, because I mean, there's no sense in having somebody that.
I agree.
Mhm.
We, answer today. Probably had that outside of the meeting.
Mhm. Who has appointed the rest of? Is that the mayor?
I mean, I'd like to see
It'd be nice to have.
I'd like to see them represented,
Yeah.
represented, but if he can't be the one, then you get somebody else that would be able to speak on his behalf.
Maybe that's a conversation. I'm just speaking off the top of my head.
Mhm.
Find out if he's truly interested in remaining. If not, then we can approach him.
You know, I see that somebody here, in town.
If somebody from that hotel wanted.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and then especially if he and Lance communicate, so he has certain authority to speak for him, not that everything is, well, I'm not at that level, I can't say.
Mm-hmm.
Brewers are out.
Are they? So Sean will be tied up on that.
I don't know. They're out of town.
Oh, they're out of town.
They're out of town.
Oh, good.
Well, then maybe he'll be. I just know that if they're in town, it plays havoc with.
Yeah.
Because he has to work.
Yeah.
I just want to throw one piece of information out too, which is going back to the ETA thing. Apparently, according to this information, there is also an ETA summit
I saw that.
in October in El Paso. So there's another opportunity if the May one doesn't. El Paso.
And I would think a priority would really be to get a website functioning.
No, you're right. So that there's something I can point to and say, look, here's what we're all about.
Mhm.
That's why I was saying to John on the calendar that should be a website on there, Engage Franklin, so that they're handing all of these out
Right.
and people can say, oh, I can go there and look at the calendar or whatever.
And the other thing I have seen more and more is that people are not handing out brochures. It's a QR code.
Yep.
And then you've got it.
The only way they're
Handing out brochures. It's a QR code.
Yep.
And then you've got it.
The only way they're effective is if it's where they want to go.
Yes.
I went to the auto show this year,
Mhm.
and a lot of places, they didn't even have a sticker on the car. It was a QR code. But it doesn't takes you to the dealership. When you got to go through and
Go find what you.
that's a lot of work.
Mhm.
Yeah.
But that's what I was thinking when we were talking about what is she going to take with her to this thing. It doesn't have to be a whole big 20-page brochure. You just want to direct them to the website.
Could be her business card and a QR code in the back. But you need a website. Absolutely. We can push her on that. Be part of Monday's session too.
A strategy that it started quickly.
Get one single identity out there. Not
Yeah.
two of them.
Just celebrate in the meantime and go to Engage. Yeah. Well, I mean, you just got one that you can start at. But
She needs to have a strategy. I'm sure she does.
I'm sure she will after. Okay,
There's some good reviews from their facilitator, so
are there
excited to see what happens. So moved.
Second.